right, we are live. What is up, guys? And welcome back to another Motivation Everything expert interview where I bring in the experts and I interview them in front of all of you. And today, I'm honored because the guest that we have with us today is someone that I've been waiting to interview for a long time now. Let me cue this up over on IG as well, and we will kick things off. So that's giving me a hard time, so we're going to get right into it. So who I have with us today is Adrian Boycell. Adrian is a visionary founder of two, not one, but two successful startup companies. Adrian Boycell is America's leading marketing mentor. Over the last 14 years, Adrian has built a client database of over 4,000 clients, allowing him to gain reputation as one of the best marketers in the country. In 2011, Adrian became obsessed with marketing and online business growth strategies, realizing that he had the potential to become more than just an award-winning graphic artist. He saw that the science of marketing, specifically content strategy, was a huge need for every business he came across was lacking in no matter the size. Adrian's determination to become the best led him to be mentored by multiple industry-leading titans in the marketing industry. In his career, has evolved from graphic artist and printer to a marketing trainer, mentor, consultant, and now speaker. Adrian brings overwhelming value to businesses by sharing his knowledge and passion for relationship branding and marketing. He understands that visual communications, marketing, and branding better than anyone, and his proven track record of generating over 100 million in sales for his clients speaks for itself. Guys, help me welcome Adrian Boycell.
Oh, yeah. What's up, guys? Man, that was an amazing introduction. That's the best one I think I've ever had, bro.
Dude, we're glad to have you, brother. We're honored to have you here. Dude, Adrian, man, tell us a little bit about yourself, brother.
Oh, man. I'll start at somewhat of the beginning, and I'll try to keep it somewhat short, but I'm actually born and raised in Northern California here. So I'm in Sacramento, the capital of California. I've been here my whole life. Lived in Illinois for a year, but I'm definitely a local, homegrown kind of guy. And I grew up all over the Sacramento region. Went to 12 different schools growing up and came from a broken home. My dad and my mom split when I was just a baby, and I was raised by my grandparents until my grandfather actually passed away right in front of me, unfortunately, at a really young age, and went back to live with my dad for a few years and then back with my grandma. And then at 16 years old, I ended up being on the streets, and I had to learn how to take care of myself, put a roof over my head, clothes on my back, food in my belly. And that's kind of where it all really began for me. Backing up just a little bit, I was an entrepreneurial person throughout my entire life. My friends were playing house and I was playing business. I'd draw pictures and draw on kids' cars, and any way I could make a buck, raking leaves, pressure washing, borrowing my dad's pressure washer, washing cars, didn't matter what it was, at a very young age, doing concrete work and hard manual labor, raking leaves. It was anything I could do to just make a buck. And I loved the entrepreneurial spirit that my grandfather had, that my dad had. And so that's a big part of who I am. It's in my blood. It's in my bones. And once I turned 16, I was like, okay, well, I know the first thing I'm going to need out in the business world is sales experience. So I went out and sold cell phones, became the top sales guy in my county, in my area in Northern California, for selling cell phones for AT&T. Then I went and sold vacuum cleaners. Then I went and sold home loans. Then I went and sold cars, and not in that order, but I pretty much sold everything I could possibly get.
We have so much in common. That's crazy.
It's a trip. And so, yeah, I even went and sold at the flea markets and was selling blown glass and vases and things like that on the flea markets on the weekends just to supplement my income. And while I was doing that and getting that sales experience, I was actually going out and promoting nightlife events because I was 18, 19, 20 years old during that time as I was getting older, and had a lot of success there. But I picked up a mentor, and his name was Larry. And that guy just totally changed my life, changed the trajectory of where I was at. Because, being in the nightlife world, it leads you into some dark places. And I had kind of wandered in some of those areas and made some bad choices at that time. And when I met Larry, he really helped me steer me right in the back in the right direction. And that was a huge deal for me. And I ended up getting into some trouble at 19 years old, made a bad decision, took some advice from my dad, and ended up finding myself in jail doing a 90-day sentence. I only ended up doing 31 days, but during that time, I remember being out in the back patio of his bar that he owned at the time is how he and I met. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? I just caught a case and now I'm going to have to go to jail. And my life, I feel like I got no hope. I got no future. I ruined any of my potential by taking this advice from my dad. He goes, look, dude, this is not going to define your future. This is just a speed bump along your road. Let this be a good learning lesson. Never let this happen again and leave this in your past and do something different. And so I took that very, very seriously. And I already had that entrepreneurial bug. I already had the sales ability from, 16 to 19. And I had a lot of confidence in that area. And I knew that I could go out there and make it happen on my own. I had a lot of connections, been in this town my whole life. And so I knew I had everything I needed to make my own future. And I was just tired of putting it in the hands of other people. And, the reason why I ended up where I was at was I had filed an insurance claim on a car that I had no insurance on. And I took my dad's advice, who was an insurance agent. I only did that because out of desperation, because I had lost my job in the mortgage industry in the mortgage crash of 2008. And so we're talking about 2007, 2008. This is when all that happened. And so I had to really learn how to overcome that. And so what I did is I wrote a business plan while I was in jail, my entire business plan for my printing and graphics business. And I just went all in on that. And so 31 days later, I actually got some experience while I was in jail working in a print shop, because they had a kind of a job program in the jail where you could walk across the street with a guard, of course, and they would take you into the print shop. And I learned how to do actual print work by hand. And I already had the design abilities from doing my own nightlife flyers. And so I was able to take those two things, open up a print shop, a retail print shop, within 30 days of me getting out of jail. I stuck to my plan. I did exactly what I said I was going to do, calling over 100 people a day, getting about 5 to 10 orders every single day, and making, $300, $400, $500 a day. And some days I would wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and I had $1,000 worth of business before I even got out of bed. And it was just an amazing transformation to be broke and feeling like I was completely lost and hopeless to, man, I have a future. Graphic design and printing, it gave me something to fight for. And at that time, I really felt like I had nothing to lose. So I just went all in on it. And it really changed my life, bro. It seriously did.
Wow, that's incredible, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy how your mess really does become your message, like Nicholas Barely says.
It's true. It's true. So yeah, and 2.5 years later, I just stayed focused. I had a 3-year probation that they put me on. I was like, I'm going to keep my head down, stay focused, work my butt off. I mean, I was working 24-hour shifts, pulling all-nighters, doing design work for people and websites, and even doing a little SEO and stuff like that back then, which wasn't my main business, but I had been dabbling in SEO because I saw the demand for it. I saw how big of an opportunity it was, and I had already been doing Google ads too. So I just took that to heart, and I literally went in on that. And within 2.5 years, I had over 3,000 clients, dude. And I had built a multi-6-figure business. I was coming up to like a $480,000 a month in my third year. And I was like, well, what's next? What am I going to do now? And I had outgrown my location. So I was hunting for a new spot. And so I found a spot in downtown Sacramento, like just a couple blocks from the Capitol. And what I did is I ended up renting a 3,000 square foot facility. And this is something that, I just couldn't have known going into it. And I should have leaned on Larry and some of my other mentors at the time. But I actually shut down my first location that was killing it, and I moved it to the downtown location. And hindsight being 2020, I actually lost 40%, probably closer to 50% of my business when I shut that location down and moved to downtown. I thought all the customers that I had in Citrus Heights were going to follow me downtown, and that's just not a reality. And so I actually ended up taking a big hit financially from that, and was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't have predicted. There's just no way I would have known that. And it's just one of those, school of hard knocks kind of lessons that you learn. Is I should have just opened up a second location, and I wouldn't have taken the hit, and the income would have continued to grow, and I would have been able to supplement it with the downtown location. But I didn't approach it that way. And unfortunately, I wanted to try to keep my costs low, and I was trying to, be lean and keep my overhead low, and it ended up biting me in the butt. And so what happened was I had a mentor. He was not really much of a mentor, but more of a former boss that I looked up to. And he came strolling into my downtown location one day and walks in, and he's like looking around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look, it's Andy. And Andy walks up to me and goes, hey man, I want to talk to the owner of this place. I'm like, Andy, do you remember me? He's like, yeah, you look really familiar. I was like, I used to work for you. I did direct mail work with you. And he's like, oh, really? He goes, where at? And I was like, Capital Mail, or Zip Mail Marketing. And he's like, oh, wow. He goes, well, who's the owner of this place? And I'm like, I'm the owner. And he's like, what? He He's like, you must be rich or something. And I'm like, nope. He's like, well, you got a bunch of, you got loans or investors or something. I'm like, nope, it's just me. Did it all freaking cash, bootstrap the whole business. He's like, dude, we should
Let's
talk.
go.
I got legal resources and I got, a whole print production facility, and I got, attorneys and finance department. And man, I got sales team, and man, I could blow your company up nationwide, dude. We should take this thing nationwide. And sold me this whole bill of goods on what he could do with my business and how he could blow it up and how he could mentor me, and we could be a nationwide brand. And I was excited by that. I was really interested in that. And so what happened was I ended up selling my business to him, essentially, is what, at the end of the day, what happened. But I was supposed to be 50-50 partner with him, but his corporation was going to assume all the responsibilities, all the debt, which wasn't very much, of my business. And then we were going to come in, all the money we made up to a certain point, we were going to split after we each got our salaries. And so 40 days into that, I decided to resign from that company because he was just abusive. He was just not taking care of people and just wasn't doing business the right way. And I just wasn't going to do things that way. So I ended up having to walk away from my own business, and I got cashed out a nice chunk of money, and I was able to take a year off and travel and do that. But I learned another hard lesson very early on. I was only like 23 years old at that time. And I had to learn another hard lesson that not everybody has good intentions, that people are out there looking out for number one, and they may act like they care about you, but that's not always true. And so you got to be very careful. If it's not in writing, it doesn't mean anything. And so you got to get things in writing. And so that was another big lesson. And so I kind of took that bump and said, all right, it's time to take some time off and figure out and reassess what looks, what's going to be next for me. And that's when I started really diving in with Google, went to Chicago, learned Google ads on a deeper level, and really just started getting into lead generation, and took a couple courses, and met Noah Kagan from AppSumo, and just a bunch of just personal growth stuff that I did during that year. And that's when I came across with my brother, and we decided to open up a marketing agency together. And that was in 2014. We opened up a marketing agency together, and it's kind of almost history since, but there's been some ups and downs and learning lessons and things that I've done over the years that has just really been transformational.
That's incredible. You know what I think is amazing about, as I grow in my business journey and the more people I meet in entrepreneurship, is some of the most successful entrepreneur business owners that I've ever met, including yourself. They had a downfall. They had a moment where they had it and they lost it all, and they had to build it back up. And I think that really separates winners from losers. You built a successful company. You went to a partnership. You had high hopes. It didn't work out. That could have been it right there for you, right? Like that could have crushed you. You could have went back to getting a job or something, but you decided to start a whole nother business. Yep. What did, in that moment, take us back there? Yeah. What was going on in your head? How hard was that? What did you have to overcome? And what was it that pushed you to keep going?
That's a very good question. I had such a great team when I had the printing company. My cousin was working for me. I had this guy, Matt, that was working for me. I had great people around me. And I knew the thing that I really brought to the table with that business was the relationships that I had built. And so when I sold that business off and assumed that it was still my business, I was the CEO of the company and I was going to continue to run it, but things were just moving in the exact opposite direction. I started losing clients and things were happening, and I'm like, this is not going well. And he's being physically abusive, verbally abusive. I mean, getting in my face, doing the finger pointing thing and all that, and literally getting so worked up his nose would start bleeding. I just realized I was in a toxic environment. And so I thought to myself, what I have here, my graphic design ability, he can't take from me. The relationships that I built, he can't take from me. Do I want to go continue in the printing world and be a print shop guy? No, that was not my vision, not my future anymore. I realized that chapter had come to an end. But what kept me going was I wanted to change and help people. I mean, that was the biggest thing, is I saw how much change and transformation I was able to make in people's lives through entrepreneurship, and how many people I was able to inspire during that time. I said, okay, now I just need to find something that isn't low ticket, that isn't a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, and people going to Vista Prints and the online printers and getting stuff for dirt cheap. I can find something like marketing where it's more service based, and I can hold them and take them by the hand and really guide them through what it's like to grow a business and build a business and brand a business. And the branding side of what I did really was the staple that kind of is still a big piece of what I do today. Is I love branding. I have an eye for branding. I create what I call $1 million brands. It's a big thing of mine.
You do, brother. I know what brand you created.
Right, the one up in the corner right there. So I create $1 million brands, and so that's really kind of my core foundational skill is the branding side of things. And then once I was able to add on the marketing side of things and understanding marketing strategy, coming up with marketing plans, implementing my branding blueprint, and having that full circle marketing service that I could offer and take people through a system, not just here's a service that I can offer, but actually a system, how to perfect your brand in online and really more money. Once I was able to develop that system, that's really the default place. So I wanted to take that system I developed in the printing world and move that into the marketing world and help these businesses beyond just printing and graphic design, is just be a full service agency. So building websites and building apps and designing brands and, all those different things, marketing funnels and advertising campaigns. Then ultimately, one of the biggest drivers for my business and for my clients and why I was able to generate what I did from some of my home improvement contractors was lead generation. And being able to actually generate really good leads from Facebook, from Google, from LinkedIn, and all these different platforms. And so that's kind of where that side of my business has been evolving, is not just an advertiser or a marketing guy, but a lead generator, local lead gen, national lead gen, international lead gen. That's kind of been the big focus for me.
That's incredible. Yeah. What would you say are like the three pillars of your business then? So you have the lead generation, and what would you say like are the core, foundation of what you do right now?
So the big revenue generator for me is my creative agency, right? So we do video animations, motion graphics, video production, we do just editing. So if somebody shoots footage and they want us to edit it, we can do the sound effects and the music in the background and the cool effects and all the fancy stuff you'll see hopefully in later in our conversation. And then I also have the website building and the content strategy and the content development. I mean, those are the big ones. So I would say creative content, the actual implementation of that content is how we're going to bring it to the market. And then ultimately how you're going to maximize the efficiency of those marketing campaigns. So optimizing those campaigns on a regular basis, fine tuning, figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and then being able to basically have that plan. So I would say strategy, creativity, and execution and optimization. Those are all big areas for me.
Dude, I love it. Now, guys, I have something special for everybody on the live right now. Now, I actually have Adrian Boycel's his graphic and marketing agency's highlight reel for 2020. And I got him to give it to me so I can broadcast it live in front of all of you. If you guys want to see the highlight reel that Adrian has provided for us, drop in the comment section below yes. I want to see some yeses. I see there's 8 of you on there right now. I better see 8 yeses. Drop yes below. Let us know that you want to see the highlight reel, and I'll go ahead and play it for you guys, and you'll get to see exactly what him and his company is doing and how they're growing brands and businesses. But I got to see some yeses in below. I know there's a slight delay, so I'll wait to see some yeses below, and then we'll go ahead and play that. Tell us a little bit about this highlight reel, man. Like, what is this, the project you've been working on this year? I know I've gotten a glimpse at it.
Yeah. So I put together a reel of our favorite projects from 2020 that we worked on, from animations to video shoots to explainer videos to course content to Facebook ads and YouTube ads, all the different things that we create. We just create so much content. And if anybody follows my YouTube channel, which hopefully they will after this interview, they'll see that not only am I creating a lot of content for my own business, but I'm creating content that can help them with their businesses for absolutely zero, for free. And I've just been doing that without the expectation of anything in return other than people's lives being changed, the business being changed. And then, about a few months ago when I joined the $1 Billion Brotherhood group with you, man, I was able to hone in and figure out, okay, graphic designers, web designers, motion designers, that is my ultimate tribe. Those are the people that I want to help the most. It's one thing to help people make a lot of money and make people rich, if you will, right? The $100 million. That's awesome. That's like a cool, you can toot your own kind of horn thing. But the reality is that's not what fills me up or brings me true joy. What brings me true joy is helping somebody that's struggling as a graphic designer, a web designer, or a creative person. They could be a musician or whatever, and helping them actually put a business model to what they're doing and make 6 figures a year doing what they love. Because the reality is, creative people is like the struggling artist, right? We are known for making 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a year on the high end and really never making a great living. And that's not the way it should be for us, because creativity is such a rare and unique gift that people who have that creative gift, to use, they should be making a lot more money on that. So what I'm doing is working to help those people. And that's the people that I want to change and transform. It's not making the rich richer, but helping people who are struggling reach those different levels in their career. Everything from, I don't have a job, to here, let me get you a job, get you some experience, to, okay, now you've kind of done that and you really want to branch out and do your own thing, walking into that. And how do you make six figures? To, hey, how do you build a business that can function without you? And that's where I'm at in my journey right now. And I can't sell that yet because I haven't perfected that model, but I have been generating six figures since 2007. So that's something I can teach and show and train and educate and mentor inside out and backwards.
Boom. All right, guys, let's go ahead and drop this video right now. Maybe not.
Very good.
Hey, I love it, brother. Guys, go ahead and hit that like and love button if you enjoyed that. That's just a little taste of what Adrian and his team does there over Adrian Graphics and Marketing and Design. Some awesome work. That was phenomenal. Some highlights from his, this year in 2020. So that's cool. So if somebody wanted to get motion graphics work done, your team can do that for them then, right?
Oh, yeah. Motion graphics, websites, sales funnels, any of the advertising, lead generation campaigns. I actually have a fun project we started last year because I know how to do local lead gen so well, is I hooked up with a roofing contractor that does roof repair, and I built 54 lead gen websites in 60 days with my team. It was unreal project. And I built them and ranked them, and it was an incredible, hundreds of backlinks, thousands of citations, thousands of pages of content written from scratch, literally from zero. Started completely fresh with all clean websites. They were templated, so we came up with an original theme, and then all the other ones basically look the same, but all the SEO is unique, all the keywords are unique, and all the areas and cities are different. So we're running those right now, and that's been a fun project to work on, and we're continuing to grow that. So rank and rent websites is a big thing that's happening in our industry right now, where people own essentially real estate online. It's a digital asset.
Dude, that's fire. We got to talk more about that on a side note.
Right.
So you got a lot going on, man. A lot of value bringing. And I'll kind of, this is a great segue. If you guys were on at the live in the beginning, or if you're watching the replay, you got to hear, Adrian's backstory, much like myself. I mean, he had a tough childhood. He faced a lot of adversity. And I think what people always see is they see the finished product. We see Adrian now. We see the guy that's making the money that you're making now, the successful business, the employees in your business, the awesome motion graphics video that I just played. But a lot of people don't realize that we're all the same, that you overcame a lot to get where you're at. So I want to talk about that. What were some core things that you had to find in your life, like mentorship and wisdom and knowledge, to help get you where you're at now that other people can take away from this interview?
Yeah, that's huge, dude. Thank you. So I think, mentorship for me has become my number one value, not just in business, but in life. It's something that I think we should all be stepping up to the plate and mentoring other people that are younger than us. And even, we all have something to add, even to people who are older than us. You've added so much value to my life. I know I only got a couple of years on you, but you've added so much value to my life. So mentorship goes both ways, younger and older. And so I think that's a big calling that I have on my life. My goal and my mission is to help at-risk youth and restore broken families. And I feel like if I can help 1 million at-risk youth that are struggling to find their identity, struggling to find their image, struggling to find their place in the world and find, what it is that they were put on earth to do. And if I can help 1 million of those people, not obviously directly, but indirectly through communities and encouraging other people to go out and mentor as well, that's where the true transformation, and that's what I want to leave this world with. And that's ultimately going to help people have better relationships, better marriages. And that's going to ultimately do what I'm called to do. And that's restore broken families. I want to take off those generational curses, those, divorce after divorce after divorce, and all they know is broken and broken families and all these things. That's what I'd like to do is first is helping them heal internally and then be able to find that person, because 12 to 16 is really I think 12 to 18, 12 to 19 probably is really my core audience that I'm trying to reach with, teaching graphic design and teaching the business of graphic design and the business of web design and, the business of creativity, if you will. That's really what my heart is after. All those people that are 12 to 18, I'm going to help for free. There's going to be zero cost. And then anybody from 18 to, and I'll be able to help, for a fee because I want them to be committed. But I'm planning on opening up a specific course just for people who are in that 12 to 18-year-old range that are trying to find that passion, trying to find that identity. And if it's in any of the creative fields, I want to be that mentor for them.
Break down, so you run a group right now that works with creatives. Yeah. Break down, what is a creative for people that don't know?
Yeah, so creative is, that's a broad term, kind of like marketing. Creativity you can find in so many different areas. What I do as a business owner, as an entrepreneur every day and solving problems, I have somebody that leaves that I have to replace. I have to get creative and I have to figure out a way to solve that fire, to put out that fire, to solve that problem. So creativity is not just necessarily about art or music or video or web design. It is creativity in general is how you approach business, is how you approach life. But specifically to what I have a personal affinity towards is the creative artists, the creative graphic designers, the web designers, the motion designers who are taking their thoughts and their ideas in their head and putting them into the world as brands, as businesses, as websites, as landing pages. Those are the people that, can take words from somebody like you when I interviewed you and asked you, what is motivation everything? What does it stand for? What are the core values? Why are you wanting to start this? What are the areas in your life that you've overcome? And being able to take all that information and dissect it and create a visual identity around that and putting that online and bringing it to the world so you can monetize it, right? That's monetize it, make an impact with it, and help others.
I love it, man. That's fire. That's, Adrian and his team did all of Motivation Everything's branding. That way, that logo you guys see up in the corner up there, his team created that. And we're still working together. We have a lot. We're just getting started. And it's incredible how he was able to sit down and visually create exactly what my dream was for Motivation Everything. And I think that's just so cool, man, and such an incredible talent. But let's talk about mentorship more. I'm big on mentorship. I would not be the man I am today if it wasn't for the mentors that I was blessed to have in my life to get me where I'm at, teach me what I know, and hold me accountable. Was there a certain mentor in your life that just created a massive shift for you that changed everything?
Yeah, there was. The first one was Larry. Larry is the reason why I'm sitting here in this office building today. He and I rented this building together. We've been on the journey together since 2006, 2005, 2006. So he's been in my life for a very long time. I consider him family. And if it hadn't been from him kind of putting me under his wing and telling me, hey, man, you got value, you're talented, you're passionate, you're enthusiastic, and building me up and just being a great role model for me. I don't know if I would be where I'm at today. And so that was a big deal. And then, I have other people in my life that have come along since, and even people before that I can go back and look at that I consider mentors. My grandmother was like a mom to me, but she was also a mentor of mine. She made a huge impact in the way I treat women, the way I stand up for myself, approaching things with fearlessness and, just being fearless in what I do and not being afraid to take risks and stand up for what I believe in and stand up for my core values. So she's a mentor. But in my career, I found that you got to have different types of mentors. So I have a mentor right now that is in the kind of publicity, entertainment, speaking world that's been in the entertainment industry his whole career, his Lionsgate films and all that. And so he's a mentor helping me kind of further my career as an influencer, as a personality, as a speaker. I'm going to be on one of his TV shows he's coming out with. I just did a project for Disney that I really can't be saying anything much about because of an NDA. Like he's a mentor of mine that's been giving me accountability. And I mean, just as an example, he was teaching me recently about setting my meetings further apart from each other and not putting so many in my day. Cause I'm like, I can fit 5 meetings in a day, right? I got an 8-hour day and my meetings are only an hour. But then what's happening is my meetings run up against each other. And then I have meetings that even overlap each other. And there's no time in between to one, prepare for the next meeting and two, wrap up the last meeting that I did and send my notes from that meeting. So what I've done now is just one thing that he had me apply to my business was widening that gap in between meetings and giving myself an hour window in between each meeting. I have mentors for that. I have mentorship in my faith world, pastors, people that I rely on, my BDB Bible study group that I've been slacking on the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you've been slacking
in the morning. Yeah, I've been slacking, and I got to take responsibility for that.
Trisha Frost this last week. Sorry to throw that in there, but it was pretty cool.
I know, and I missed that. So I feel like the big takeaway I hope for people is that you got to find a mentor in different areas. I needed a mentor in the health and wellness of my life, and that's my wife. I mean, she's all about natural wellness and healing my body and using all the natural remedies and things that are out there to help myself. So that's another mentor for me. So mentors are all around you if you look close enough. And the big thing that has been a big help for me is accountability, because I do procrastinate. I'm sure like a lot of people do. And having those people in my life, in those specific areas of my life, health, wealth, relationships, like you talk about, and having accountability there has been a big deal. And I've been able to get a lot of small little wins every single day, just doing 30, 40, 50 push-ups in a day versus not doing 30, 40, 50 push-ups for 2 years. All of a sudden I feel energized. I feel better. So I needed that accountability, and I got my BDB Elite group for that. So I think mentorship is one of the greatest things that you can possibly do for yourself and you can do for others.
I love it, man. For somebody that feels like they don't have these mentors in their life, right? And they want to grow in life and they want a mentor. What would you recommend to that person if they were to ask, how do I find mentors in my life?
Man, it comes to just taking action with everything in my life. The reason why I've been able to have the success that I have, besides being in the same city that I have been my whole life, is being able to build relationships, serve people, and just generally putting other people first has been a big deal for me. And so because I've poured into so many people and helped people without expecting anything in return, people have been giving back to me tenfold. I mean, literally tenfold of what I can expect. And I came in and served those people with insane work ethic. I mean, that's how I built the relationship with my buddy Brian that I was talking about, the entertainment mentor, is I've just been serving him. I'm working on projects for 10% of what I should be charging, and I'm doing projects to help him with his TV show, and I'm not charging anything for that. So I'm just serving as many people as I can and planting those seeds. So the big thing for you that you got to take away from this is you got to go out there and take action, man. Insane amounts of action. And it's got to be focused action. You don't want to be all over the place. That's been one of my big struggles and learning lessons throughout my life is I'm the visionary type. And so I get into a project, I get a week or two in, and then I lose focus and I work on something else and I hop over onto another project that's new and exciting. And so I've had to really learn how to become very laser focused on completing a task from start to finish. And that's why I'm coming full circle with Instagraphics, is because Instagraphics was a vision that I had, 2016, as I was flying to Spain, of, hey, who can I add more value to? Who can I help most in the world? Who are the people that need the knowledge that I have? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Other graphic designers, other creatives, other web designers, and even other marketers, and helping those people go out there and have a 6-figure business and be able to make 6 figures a month is, I mean, what would that mean for somebody that's making $30,000 a year, that's living paycheck to paycheck, struggling, living in a tiny broke down apartment like I was, to living a life where you're making over $10,000 a month and living in a nice house with a beautiful daughter? I mean, just to be able to see that transformation is so incredible and so impactful. Those are the people that I want to help. So I wrote a course outline, starting to put that together. But again, I got distracted and went back to working on my agency and growing my clientele base and chasing the dollar and not chasing what was truly true to my heart and what I really wanted. So now here I am after joining the BDB and going, man, all these years that have passed by, I should have just been doing that the whole time and just focused all of my energy on that. I can only imagine how many people's lives I would have changed by now, but all I can do is make the change now and start to implement those things. So that's something that I'm doing now, is I'm building that community. I'm building that group, bringing in as many graphic designers, web designers, and motion designers as I can, and just mentoring and adding as much value to them as I possibly can.
What's your long-term goal with Instagraphics?
The long-term goal is actually an exit, to be perfectly honest. So I want to build that community up to where we have, 5,000, probably 5,000 members. I don't really want it to get too much bigger than that. I mean, if I come alongside somebody else that's got a huge vision, I think that would be huge. But I think 5,000 graphic designers, web designers, motion designers that are all mentors. So what I'm trying to create is a group of mentors. So 5,000 mentors. Imagine if they each went out and mentored 2 or 3 people, the impact that would make in the world. It's that compound effect. And then those people are going to impact people, and those people are going to impact people. And so that ripple effect happens. So that's really my big picture. And then eventually being able to sell that platform off to a company that has even more potential than I can by myself, like Adobe, where they have access to 2 million graphic designers worldwide, where they can plug in this mentorship program that's already been perfected, that's already been proving, that's making a huge impact in the world. And then I can just step back and go, wow, look at this. These guys are going to put rocket fuel on the fire right now and turn this thing into an inferno, into a bonfire, a wildfire, and really make a huge impact. So that's really my goal. And then from there, if I sell it to Adobe, I'll obviously be able to exit, what they call exit rich. And from there, that's not going to be the end of my journey. That's going to be the beginning of what I'm truly called to do. And that's going to be more ministry for me, and really speaking to youth all over the world. And, put companies like YWAM, organizations like YWAM, Youth with a Mission, and going and speaking. And I just want to speak. I want to write. I want to create children's books. I'm a creator. That's who I am at my heart and at my root. I have the evangelical gift of speaking and telling stories and all that. But at the root of it, I love to design. I love to draw. I love to create. And that's what I want to do. So I want to end up having, a kid's book and kids cartoon series and entrepreneurship series, and, my own kids version of the Shark Tank. How cool would that be able to teach kids entrepreneurship?
Sweet, dude.
Right?
That's so cool, man. I love it, man. And I love the vision that you have and the clarity on it. And I definitely could see that. Let's talk about Tag Talks a little bit.
That's fun. Yeah. So that kind of fell in my lap. I started a radio show back in 2017 called Project Grow. It was a faith-based business show. Again, one of those learning lessons that you go through, is I realized that I was limiting my audience so much by saying faith-based. So about 1.5 years ago, I changed it, and I call it the Business Mentorship Show. I personally, everything I speak about, everything I talk about is rooted in faith. How I deal with people, how I treat people, how I go through my day-to-day business life, how I pull in people. I do that with Christ at the center of it all. But I don't need to push that agenda by saying faith-based. So I switched it and pivoted a little bit from Project Grow. But during that time, I met Nicholas Bailey and interviewed him on my show. I got to interview some big names on the radio station itself. And that brought the opportunity of Tag Talks. A gentleman by the name of Raul Lopez Jr. came to me and he said, hey, I got this vision. I had a dream that I was speaking in front of an audience of really huge names and huge people. And I had this event, and it's all about transparency. It's taking these huge, high profile people and getting them to open up and being a little bit more vulnerable than the lights and cameras and, all the glitz and glamour and all that, and kind of stripping that all away and making it about transparency and honesty and vulnerability. And so I want to start this event series called Tag Talks. Stands for transparency, acceptance, and growth. And so he created that Tag Talks and said, hey, I need somebody to help me do these events. Would you be interested in doing like a trade and like a barter? And I'm like, man, I did one speaking event. I would love to speak on stage. If you would be open to it, I'd promote the event. I can create all the graphics for the event. I have connections to the radio station. I can get us a radio show. Like, I'm on the radio, obviously. So let me help you and come in. And so he decided to be partners with me, thankfully. And we did our first event with Tom Bilyeu, Alex Stern, and some big names that came out, Daniel Gomez, some really cool people. And that was our very first one. We had a little over 200 people that attended that very first event. And that was my first time getting on stage. And I was like, okay, I'm hooked. This is it. I love to speak. I love sharing my story. I love seeing the transformation, sharing my faith with people. And that's really the root of how that kind of took off. And then we did another one with Forbes Riley and Kevin Harrington and some cool people. And then bam, COVID hit, right? So we're 2 events in on that. It's just been a lot of fun to learn how to speak on stage and tell a story and pitch and, bring in speakers. That is, I got to tell you, man, when it comes to events, I don't know if you've ever done one. That is the hardest thing.
Oh, dude, speaking on stage I've never hosted an event, but I've spoken, and it was incredible, man. That's my dream, man.
It's so hard, man. Filling seats, putting butts in seats is way easier said than done. You think, oh man, I got 1,500 people that registered for free on my event. I'm going to pack this place. I'm going to sell it out. And then you go and you show up to the event and you got 180 people sitting there, in the first hour. And you're like, what happened? Where is everybody? Why didn't they show up? What did I do wrong? 1,500 people said they were coming to this event. And of course you tell all the people that sponsored your event and that supported the event, yeah, we're going to have like 500 people because you're expecting, 20, 30% return. And it just doesn't happen. And so that was a big learning lesson for myself and for Raul, is just knowing, hey, man, you're going to have to invite like 5,000 people if you want 500 to show up. And that's a lot of work and a lot of money to do. And so you got to be willing to put your money where your mouth is and make a significant investment to do those events. And it doesn't always pay up front. If you do a pitch at the event and you sell there, you can make some of your money back, but really the credibility of the event, the attention that the event gets you, those are the ways that you can recuperate some of those funds up front. But man, it is expensive and it is hard to do. So that was just another learning lesson that I had over these last 2 years, taking on these passion projects of, man, I'm down to help you. And, I didn't make anything up front for those events. I got a lot of business out of it at the end of it, but it's a huge investment of time, money, and even stress and sleep.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to COVID being over and seeing the Tag Talks again. I heard you got a pretty cool special guest speaker coming in.
We do. Yeah, we got a lot of big names coming. And I don't know if you want to reveal that now, but
we don't have to. I didn't know if you wanted to.
No, I would love to. So I actually invited Cody to be one of our speakers. He's got an incredible story. I can make that decision and say, I would be honored to have you on my stage and have you share your story, because it's powerful. People need to hear it, just like they need to hear mine. And your past doesn't define your future. And I know that you're a Titan. You're on the beginning of your journey here with Motivation Everything, but it's the beginning of, I think, a very incredible story. And so, you've laid the foundation of where you've been the last 15 years of your life, and this is the next chapter I see for you. It's just going to be incredible. And so I can't wait for you to get up on stage and share your story and share what you're doing with Motivation Everything. And everybody needs to be in Motivation Everything. There isn't a human being on the planet that can't use a better daily dosage of motivation. And you've created an amazing brand, and your vision for it is incredible. And I see it being super scalable, dude. This is going to be a big thing. So I'm excited to be one of the first people to be on your show.
Dude, I appreciate those words. I receive them and honor them, man. I'm honored to have the ability to go speak on Tag Talks. I can't wait for the opportunity to really get on stage again when all this COVID and this pandemic's over with, and to be able to just speak into people and pour value into them. There's something about like this virtual is awesome. We're making the best of it. We're rolling with it. But there's something about that human element of having real people in front of you and the energy in the room, man. It's just like, it's something like, I'll never forget the first time I spoke in front of 200 people down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, when I was a network marketing company. Dude, I made my mom cry. It was the most incredible moment of my life. Like, I poured my heart out. And it was just, it was something that if I could just live in that, I would live there for the rest of my life. And since then, I've done a few speaking events, but this will definitely be one of the bigger ones that I've ever done. And I'm honored, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. So we got a little bit of, what's that?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I was going to move into the next section, but say what you were going to say.
So I was just going to say that, these events are going to be huge, and our audience has grown a lot even since our last event. So I know that there will be more attendees for that one, which I'm excited about. And we have speakers that were at the previous events that are like, I want to come back and share another story. I got another story. And I'm like, okay, great. So we're going to have more speakers probably than we've ever had in our next event. But the big thing I wanted to ask you, and not to turn myself into the interviewer, but I had a question for you that I feel like I'm supposed to ask you right now. But if you were to look back at your life and think back to when you were a little kid and look at just even this conversation that we're having now, where you're at in this exact moment, and looking back on your life, or looking forward, not back, but looking forward as a little kid's eyes to who you are today, have you surpassed where you thought you would be?
Yeah, I think I have. I think that growing up, in the childhood that I lived in, I didn't really know like if I would ever become somebody, man. The environment I was in and how tough it is. I never thought I would have the ability to be interviewing someone like you live on the internet, impacting people's lives, building a company of my own, like Motivation Everything, like getting to have conversations like this every day, waking up feeling happy, fulfilled, loving what I do. Like, I never thought in the world I'd do that. When I was a kid, it was get a job, go work, make money. And it was just like rat wheel that everyone was on. And to be able to like, dude, just the impact that we get to make on people through mentorship, through someone made on, it's crazy. It's like someone lifts you down and picks you up. And then you get the ability to do that same thing. And we're all just like pulling each other up and then lifting up, and someone's pulling us up. And it's this constant just tug and pull of just leveling up together, encouraging one another. And so to answer your question, no, man, I never thought that I would be the man that I am today. And now I just want to keep growing and impacting more people just like you.
Well, I want to tell you that I just had like this overwhelming emotion of just overwhelming feeling of love. I don't know what exactly it means in terms of who it's coming from or where it's coming from specifically, but there's just an overwhelming level of how proud I am. And I feel like I'm channeling. I think the Lord is just giving me some of that feeling of how proud He is of you, from where you were and where you are today. Because I had that same epiphany that hit me a couple of days ago, and as I was praying, and it's a powerful thought to think, like, go back to our childhood and think who we were then and how we saw our future. And I believed that I had great things in my future, but I also believed that I was defined. My parents' lives defined my future too. And it wasn't until I became an adult and my buddy Larry said, dude, your parents, that's them. You can live your life in a completely different way. And I already knew I wasn't going to be the same kind of parent my dad was to me or my mom was, but I knew that I was going to live a different life than my parents. And my only goal was to live different than they did and to do things differently than they did. And I can look at my life now, and I was able to have this kind of reflection moment this week of like, man, I am so much further than I thought I was going to be at my age. And maybe not financially, maybe I had some big dreams as a kid of like, oh, I'll be a millionaire someday. And I probably will be, but I'm not really concerned about the time frame of that anymore. But who I am as a person, I'm very grateful and proud of myself for where I'm at. And I want you to be as well, because you're probably way further along than you even thought you would be if you were to think about yourself when you were a kid. And so I just want to remind you of that and how important that is that you're an amazing guy and you just still have so much more amazing stuff coming down the pipeline.
I appreciate it. You know, what blows my mind is we both spent time in jail. You know, mine was much shorter than you. I did 16 and a half hours. You spent 31 days. And it just amazes me. I think back on just that 16 and a half hours in that jail cell and just how stuck and lost and just scared I was for my life and how much I felt like a fuck up and a failure. And like I was never going to be able to do anything with my life because of the choices that I'd made that got me to that point. And you've been there, man. And I think a lot of people that I speak to and that resonate with, and you as well, it's like, I'm not really looking for the people that think they're perfect. Like I'm really speaking to the people that are out there that feel like they're imperfect, but want to be better. Because here's the thing, me and Adrian up here right now, we impact people, but we've been there, man. We made mistakes. We messed up. We failed. We put ourselves in situations that were not good. And if a guy like Adrian and a guy like me can come out of that hole, learn and grow and get where we're at now, then anybody watching this live or the replay, you can do it too.
That's right. 100% fact. I was a homeless kid hanging out with train riders, sleeping on the streets, come from an abusive family, no high school diploma. I don't know if I've ever told anybody that. I think maybe once. No high school diploma, high school dropout, but I got a 6-figure business that I've been building since almost 15 years now. So any of the mistakes that you made, dropping out of high school, having a kid, in teen mom, whatever, it doesn't matter. Those circumstances, those don't define your future. You taking action every single day, going out there, not making excuses and getting focused and being intentional with your day and the time that you have on this earth is it's so finite. You have such a little amount of time that you got to make every moment count. This is an important example. This is something that I'm taking an hour out of my day. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't know it was going to make an impact on somebody. If it can just impact one person, it's worth that hour of my time. It doesn't matter about the money that I can make. When I do consulting, I charge anywhere between $650 and $1,000 an hour. This call is worth 10x that. My time is the most valuable the most valuable thing that I have, possession that I have. And so being able to take control of it, make the most out of it, and enjoy it is what's most important to me nowadays. And that's what should be important to you. And that's why, I mean, when I was young, man, 24 hours in a day, I can work 16, no problem. Now with being a dad and having a business and doing all the things that I'm doing and having a wife, I can't do those kinds of days anymore, but I can still utilize the team and delegate the team to the team that I have around me. And every 8 hours that I work is kind of like working with 10 people on my team. It's kind of like working 80 hours in a day. So as you start to scale and grow, you start to leverage your time by using other people's time to make you money. And so you're either going to, and there's a saying, and I love this one, you're either going to use your time to make other people rich, or you're going to use other people's time to make you rich. It just depends on what part of the coin that you want to be on.
Boom. Well, I have a question for you. Taylor Peebles, who's also in my Motivation Everything Club, actually. Shout out to Taylor. Adrian, how do you prep for speaking events?
That's a challenging question only from the fact that everybody's different, right? Some people are introverted and some people are extroverted. So how an introvert prepares for a speech is going to be completely different than how an extrovert prepares. I'm an interesting individual where I'm very extroverted in public, and even at home. But when I'm in a small group of people, or like I go to a party or a group of people, I'm very reserved until I get to know somebody there. And I'm kind of a shy person. But then once I get to know somebody, good luck shutting me up. But I'm definitely an extrovert. But how I prepare for it is I shoot from the hip a lot. That's just kind of my personality type. But I go through bullet points. So I prepare by going through my bullet points and saying, okay, I know I'm going to talk about how to make 6 figures in 6 months. That is the end goal that I want people to walk away from, is understanding how to make 6 figures in 6 months. I do everything backwards. Okay. So if that's my end goal, what is the story of how I did that? Well, showing somebody how I started as a graphic designer, how I added printing, upselling printing, and how I added upselling web design and upsold and cross-sold different products was able to help me build a business that was able to make 6 figures very quickly, literally in less than 6 months. In 90 days, I had a 6-figure business. So being able to tell my story of where I started from being a graphic designer to going to jail, writing my business plan, starting a printing company, and then ended up opening up a bigger location and then selling that company, sharing that story and sharing the process that I wrote and the business plan that I wrote in there, and kind of weaving that all through was really important. But it's your hook. What is the hook that's going to get everybody? What is the story that you're going to tell them? And then what is the action, right? And you got to give them some sort of action. Do your homework. Surround yourself with better people. Write a business plan. If you don't have a plan, you can't actually be successful. You don't have nothing. You have no goal to hit for, right? So to answer the question is, I don't prepare myself as well as I think introverts and some other people do. Is they get they rehearse their script over and over and over again, and they say it over and over again. I don't need to do that because I know my story. I know it inside out and backwards. And if I know where I'm going, all I need to do is have those kind of benchmarks along my journey. So that's what I really focus on, is remembering what are those key highlight points and those takeaways throughout my journey. What are they call the moments? Steve Werner talked about this earlier today, was the moments. There's specific moments throughout your story that you need to have. So preparing for it could look different than it does for me as it does for you. But I mean, you always want to walk into things comfortable and prepared, but just know that it's going to be uncomfortable probably the first 100 times that you do it.
I don't know if it ever gets fully comfortable. I think public speaking in itself is always naturally going to be a level of uncomfortable. You just get better.
That's right. Exactly. And you become more skilled. You start to be able to think outside of yourself, because that's the problem I had when I first spoke and I got on stage, as I brought notes, right? I had those bullet points written down. And even though I had a pulpit and I put my notes on the pulpit, which was on the far left-hand side of the stage, something in my brain, even though I walked away from them and went to the opposite side of the stage, somehow it was like a magnet, and my brain just kind of like pulled me back over to my notes, and I kept going like this and reading my notes. And I'm like, what am I doing reading notes? I know this. I already know my story. I don't need to remember my story. I just need to tell it. If I leave something out, don't overthink it. If I leave something out, the audience doesn't know that I left something out. Just make sure that I include it next time, right? And so you just got to be pretty fearless. You know you're going to make mistakes. You're going to forget things. You're going to leave things out. You can't get hung up on that stuff. The goal is progress over perfection, right? I think you say that.
Better done than perfect.
Better done than perfect. That's the key.
And you know what? Public speaking it's incredible when you get in front of people. I'm the same way, dude. I kind of just wing it, shoot from the hip, whatever you want to call it. I do a little prep. I know the main points. I know what I'm talking about well. I make sure I'm educated on it. And then I think all of the practicing I've ever done, the recording, the videos, all those techniques are never as good as the actual live thing.
That's right. Yeah, and I get myself jacked up. So making sure that you have like music, like you see football players and athletes, like they got their headphones on and they're getting themselves, like when you're at the gym, right? You get yourself jacked up and you got some motivational music. Like when I'm about to speak and go on stage, I'm behind the stage literally doing this. I mean, jumping up and down, going crazy, and just getting myself all fired up so that when I come out, I want people to be like, dude, look at this guy's excitement and enthusiasm and how pumped he is. Like, I want to be as freaking jacked up as this guy. This guy is so freaking fired up, and it's contagious. That level of excitement and enthusiasm.
Energy is definitely contagious. I play on that a lot. That's one of my biggest, that's what I use is energy. Tony Robbins is big on that. Put yourself in peak state. Dude, like, what do you got to jump and jack, dance around, throw some music on, like completely just get yourself into peak state before you go out there. And your adrenaline's already pumping. When you know you're next, when you know you're about to speak, that adrenaline is pumping. You better do something to control it. I got another question for you, Sean Spector. What's the most important thing to think about when branding you and your business?
Man, that's a really good question.
Yeah,
I think the thing that people forget about is they make stuff that looks cool. They do $5 logos on Fiverr and garbage websites like that, and they never take into consideration their core values. And core values are those emotional triggers and connection points that are going to build that relationship to the people that think and act and walk and talk like you. And those are the people that you want to do business with, people who are growth-minded, who are hungry, who are coachable, who are passionate. All of those core values that I have, mentorship, right? That's the reason why you and I have linked up, is we match. We have that synergy with each other. We know that mentorship is life-changing. So your core values have to be in your brand, and your brand is not your logo. I mean, that's another big lesson that people should take away too. Is a lot of people think, oh yeah, I got a brand, and I'm like, oh, let me see your brand, and it's like they just show me their logo, and I'm like, Where's the rest of your brand? And it's like, your brand is your logo. It's sight, sound, touch, smell, feel. All of those things are your brand. It's how do you answer the phone when somebody calls you? How do you enter into your podcast episodes? If you'll notice, at the very beginning of all my shows that I do, I say, oh yeah, right? I do that at the beginning. And at the end of every show that I do, keep looking up. That's part of my brand. I want people to remember what's most important at the end of the day, is to keep looking up and look up to, where our source of energy and our creativity and all those things are coming from.
Dude, that's fire, man. So we just hit the hour. So what I'll do is I'll finish up with 2 last questions. Cool. And I think the first one is really good off some of the things that you've said today. And if you were speaking to a younger version of Adrian, a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now?
So this is going to be controversial and polarizing because it almost goes against everything I've talked about in a way on the surface level. But if you listen to what I'm saying, hopefully you'll understand this. People don't care about you. That's the general rule. There's going to be exceptions that you're going to find, but people don't care about you. So one of the things that I've really done wrong in my career is I have given to so many people and ignored all of the red flags. And the majority rule is that people don't care. They're out for themselves. They're out for number one. I should be better about being out for number one. Most of the time I put myself as number two, and that's something that I'm learning to work on to get better at, is taking care of myself and not sacrificing my sleep or my time or my money and things like that. And so you got to remember that people don't really care about you as much as they care about themselves. And that's a harsh reality of life. And it's something that I really had to take to heart in this last year. COVID, people became very divided and very separated and more polarized and more distant than ever before, especially in the political spectrum. People losing friends over who they're voting for. I mean, it's so ridiculous. So that is a big deal that I would tell myself, is be a lot more picky about who you choose to do business with. I think that's a really, really big deal. And then the next thing would be just be patient. I think, those hungry, motivated, driven people, we can tend to jump a little too quickly into things without thinking them through enough. And that's one area, that jumping and opening up another location and then shutting down my other location, and jumping and, filing an insurance claim and listening to my dad. Like, if I had taken a little bit more time and come down from my emotional state and thought about it logically, I knew that it wasn't the right thing to do, to file a false claim. But my dad was an insurance agent, and I trusted him, and I listened to him, and I took his advice. Things like that, like just being patient and understanding that all good things require work, and they require time. It's going to take time and consistency to do. So that would be the advice I would give to myself, is be a lot more careful about who I surround myself with and who I do business with, and to just be patient. Dude,
that was a gold nugget, man. I'm glad that you went there. I appreciate you sharing that with me and sharing that with everyone else. And the last question I'll ask you is just one last gold nugget. If you have one last gold nugget to drop for everyone, you've dropped a lot of them today. Go ahead and drop it. It would be that last piece of wisdom that you can leave us all with.
That's a good one. Well, I think that it's really important for people to understand that you are the sum of the people that you surround yourself with. And the reason why I'm in this community, the reason why I've had the success in my life that I've had, the reason why I've invested so much money into personal development is because it's gotten me closer to people like Cody, to people like Nicholas Bailey, to people like James Malinchak, to people like Brian Gallinger. I could go on and on. People like Larry Ellis. The people that you surround yourself with are what's going to help you define your future and put you on the right path and keep you grounded and keep you on your path. Because when you detour and you start doing something crazy and different and wild that you shouldn't be doing, those are the people who are going to be like, hey man, that's not going to work. You might want to go back to what you were doing, right? And so having some people to surround yourself with is super important. So you don't have community, you need to get one. If you're not in motivation everything and you're just seeing this on Cody's timeline, you need to get into motivation everything. If you're a graphic designer, get into the Instagraphics Pro Network. If you're a businessman, get into the $1 Billion Brotherhood. Find a community and invest into that community. Pour your knowledge, your passion, your drive, your knowledge. I mean, all the things that you can. Pour as much of yourself as you possibly can into these communities and give without expecting anything in return, and just watch what happens.
Boom. We can drop the mic now.
Drop the mic. Lower my mic, I guess, because it's connected.
Because yours is hooked up. Dude, that is awesome. How can we give you value? I know you got the YouTube channel going hard right now. Tell us about the YouTube channel and where people can find you in any way that we can give value back to Adrian.
So I originally started my YouTube channel as just a channel to showcase my work. And then a year ago, I decided to step it up a level and start making content, marketing videos, training videos, graphics tutorials, all these different videos. And I spread myself very thin on YouTube about the type of content and the type of keywords that I was going after on there. And so I was spread so thin that it took me a long time to get traction. And so I was helping small business owners and medium-sized business owners and large business owners with their branding and their marketing strategies and doing those YouTube videos. But I didn't really feel like I was making a lot of traction. So what I did is I had a meeting, thanks to the Billion Dollar Brotherhood and Nicholas and a few other people in the group. And I realized that, again, the people that I can add the most value to are creatives. So I pivoted my channel into, if you're a creative and you find my channel, it will literally, the 200 plus videos that I have on that channel will literally change your life. And even if you're not a creative, there are still probably close to 200 videos that you can watch as a small business owner that will change your life, change your business, will totally change the way you look at branding, the way you look at marketing, helping you set up systems, helping you generate leads, all of those things. And so if you want to check out my channel, it's Adrian Graphics and Marketing. You just type that in YouTube. Just type in Adrian Graphics. My stuff will come up. You'll see my face with my Arte hat as my profile picture. I have hundreds of videos on there. I create 3 videos a week, free training videos on how to rank your business on Google, how to get traffic, how to do Facebook ads, how to do Google ads, all of that stuff, how to brand your business. So just really good stuff there. That's the biggest area that I'm focusing my energy on, because I got a lot of stuff that I'm going to build off of that YouTube channel that's going to kind of branch off of that, including my own personal channel under my name. But that's where I could really use the most support right now. And again, if you're a creative and you want to be in a community, I'm building the #1 community for creatives.
Boom. There it is, guys. Make sure you go follow Adrian Graphics on YouTube. Join his Instagraphics community, a top-notch community if you're a creative or wanting to get into there. I'm in there myself. It's incredible the amount of value that he continues to pour into there every single day. I absolutely love it. If you guys are looking for graphic design work or anything in marketing or building your brand, Adrian and his team, they're the ones to talk to. So I highly suggest you reach out to him. I'm going to have Adrian drop his contact info below in the comments when we finish this up. Make sure you connect with him, you follow him. He's always just one thing I can say about Adrian is he definitely puts his money where his mouth is, and he definitely over delivers. So that's one thing I can honor you with, is you over deliver on everything that you do. And just thank you so much, man, for coming on the show.
I'm so grateful that you had me, bro. This was really fun, and I got to share my story, and that's my dream, is I just want to help people get hope. I think that's the biggest takeaway probably for me. Is I felt a lot of hope in this. I think that's one of the keywords, one of the buzzwords of this is hope. I think there are people out there that are hopeless and don't really know where they're going and what they're going to do, but they just got to get started, and there's hope out there for everybody.
Amen, brother. Well, thank you so much, guys. Remember, next week, same time, Tuesday, 7 p.m., I bring on an expert every single week. Adrian's working with me and pushing me hard. We're doing a rebranding with this. It basically is a live podcast that all of you get to see. It will be getting converted into a podcast soon, available on iTunes, Spotify, and all of that good stuff. But this is the Motivation Everything show, where I bring experts in. We have incredible interviews, and we drop tons of value. I appreciate all of you that tune in and watch this and watch the replay, and we'll see you next week.